Hello everyone, batching into today's video, we're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. For today's video, that's going to take us around the 9th of February, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and E7 ensembles running to around a couple of weeks. Have a look at Beijing Climate Centre today, which is going to look at weather the next 40 days. That takes us into the beginning of March. We'll deal with the what's happening in the stratosphere over the Arctic and also the Arctic and North Atlantic oscillations as well. So it will be quite an extended one. So I'll get on that for you very shortly. Just to say that Gazovitz now has an Instagram page. So this is the Gazovitz Instagram page just here. I'll leave a link to this in the description at YouTube. So quite what we do with this, I'm not sure. It's connected to Facebook, really, I think, Instagram. I'll perhaps upload a chart or so a day, something like that, to the Instagram page. But anyway, there we go. That's Gazovitz on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and also Gazovitz, the website, as well. So we're across the internet, across social media. And yeah, have a look at the Gazovitz Instagram page if you would like to do that. Right, so this is how things are looking in terms of the temperature at 10 HPA over the Arctic. We've been looking at this all week. At the start of the week, there was a suggestion that we might get a sudden stratospheric warming over the Arctic and the North Pole sometime by the second week of February. Last couple of days seeing the GFS back away from that idea. We are having a significant warming of the stratosphere over Siberia at the moment, where we've got these yellow and green colours. And if I run you through, you can see that this is going to intensify over the weekend. So this does come a very significant warming of the stratosphere over northern parts of Russia over the weekend, but just short of what I would classify as a genuine sudden stratospheric warming. However, it does cause a displacement. We've talked about this in videos over the past few days as well. So these blue colours will eventually push out of the top of the Arctic and down onto the Atlantic and European side of the pole. So we call this a displacement event, where these yellow and green colours are sort of displacing the blue colours out. But it's not destruction of the polar vortex like you would get with a sudden stratospheric warming. You're not seeing a complete obliteration of those blue colours. Running to the extended range of this GFS run, we see that first warming sort of fizzles out over Canada. The blue colours, the cold temperature 10 HPA, begin to move back to their more typical position into the Arctic. But we are getting this secondary warming again, appearing over Siberia. We're up to the 12th of February now, so a secondary warming of the stratosphere is taking place. This was the one that earlier in the week looked like it could become a genuine sort of sudden stratospheric warming. Again, the GFS is not taking up to that sort of level now, just like another significant warming of the stratosphere over Siberia and Russia. But again, it's just short of what would be classified as a sudden stratospheric warming. So at the moment, there is still no sign of a genuine sudden stratospheric warming. There's still no sign of an end to this intense polar vortex, stratospheric polar vortex that we've got in the Arctic, in the stratosphere over the Arctic and the North Pole at the moment, with those intensely cold temperatures. They are going to get displaced a bit in around a week's time, but still, up to the middle of February, there's no sign of a genuine sudden stratospheric warming at the moment. That could change, of course. It's all extended range stuff. And this is probably a bit of an upgrade. This secondary warming that we have here, around 12th, 13th February, it's probably a bit of an upgrade on what we were seeing with the GFS yesterday. So it's possible the GFS is starting to move back towards that idea of a sudden stratospheric warming in the second week of February. We should wait to see how that develops. Now, the Arctic oscillation is going very, very positive again if the GFS ensembles are correct. So this is the AO observed and forecast chart. The black line shows where we've been with the Arctic oscillation. Red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. You'll see that back into the first half of January, the Arctic oscillation went exceptionally positive. It's been positive pretty much all winter, though did go negative for a week or two in the second half of December. But overall, this has been a very positive AO winter. particularly through the first half of January. Where we are right now is actually around neutral. The Arctic oscillation has come down to around neutral. But if the GFS ensembles are right, the AO is going to be taking off big time as we go into February. So this is the start of February just here. Already the Arctic oscillation by Ben is forecast to be positive. So that's over the weekend, of course. But look how these red lines, which are all individual members of GFS ensembles, excuse me, look how these red lines are really lifting up. Yes, we do have one or two just here that are kind of like in neutral territory, but most of these GFS ensemble members are really shooting up, and some of them are actually going off the scale positive for the Arctic oscillation, with one or two of these GFS ensemble members by the middle of February. This will be the middle of February just here. Now, that's a very long way out, and I think it's probably unlikely that we will go off the scale, but it certainly looks like we're going to see another very, very positive period of Arctic oscillation condition. And of course, when it's just the index that's reflecting the atmospheric state. So when the AO is positive like this, you're going to have intense low pressure, an intensely strong polar vortex over the Arctic and over the North Pole as well. And it's that polar vortex that's driving the westerlies. It's driving zonality in off the Atlantic. So to have such a positive AO, it tells us that the first half of February is likely to be just a continuation of what we've had through this winter now, which is really, really Atlantic driven and really strongly zonal and strongly westerly as well. When the AO is negative, you'll tend to have high pressure, tend to have blocking up over the pole, and that is the route to pushing cold air out of the pole down to mid-latitude. But this is the complete opposite of that. This is showing a signal, if anything, for very, very strong zonal flow via this intensely positive Arctic oscillation, which of course is a very strong polar vortex. North Atlantic oscillation observed and forecast, same idea. So again, black line shows we've been with the NEO, red lines of the air where GFS ensembles forecasting the NEO to go. For most of this winter, the North Atlantic oscillation has been in positive territory. It's never been negative actually through this winter. A few days back in December went towards neutral. And where we are right now, actually, for the first time this winter, is neutral to ever so slightly negative, and the NEO is going to go a little bit more negative just in the next couple of days. But then by the start of February, by weekend, we're lifting the NEO back up into positivity. And the GFS ensembles then through the first half of February really forecasting the NEO to be positive once again. So combined with the AO, remember again the NEO is just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state, but putting the two together, putting this intensely strong AO forecast together with just a generally positive NEO forecast, it can be nothing more than a signal for zonality through the first half of February. So the westerlies are set to continue. The attack of the westerlies, they're going to go on through the first half of February by the look of it. There's very little sign here from these two indexes of a significant change. That might allow a cold snap here and there, a little toppler or something for a day or so, but the broad picture is definitely one of westerlies ruling the roost as they have done throughout this winter. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be all that wet, though. Sometimes you can get high pressure building up from the Azores with these strongly zonal flows. And this is really what the 500 millibar height anomaly flow chart from the ECMWF via the Penn State University is showing for the next week to 10 days. So these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts from Penn State University. We've got the ECM on the top. The GFS, which we're going to have a look in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars is where high pressure, low pressure being moved around by the jet stream. And red extrapolates high pressure blue to low pressure. So you can see that actually in the week to 10 day time frame, the 7 to 10 day time frame, the ECMWF has the ridge of high pressure relatively strong across western parts of Europe and also extending out into the Atlantic as well. It's like an extension of the Azores high. And of course, you've got this deep trough of low pressure, which will bring bitterly cold weather into central western parts of America. Eastern America mild as the jet stream rises northwards. And then into the Atlantic, that jet stream just comes across the Atlantic and then digs southwards as well. We might bring some cold air down into eastern northeastern parts of Europe by that trough of low pressure. But for us, we look basically high pressure dominated there. A lot of dry weather, you would have thought. But also very mild potentially, with the jet stream rising northwards around the top of the ridge, and also bringing up very mild air from the south and from the southwest too. The GFS is very similar, but it has more low pressure in the Atlantic. So the ridge is actually centred rather to our east. So we've got this deep low pressure in the Atlantic. There's the Azores high there, of course. So the jet stream coming across the Atlantic like that, rising northwards and digging southwards through eastern parts of Europe. They both agree that Eastern Europe could have a taste of winter in the 7 to 10 day time frame. But for us, really what's happening here is that the low pressure in the Atlantic is sort of breaking down the ridge, and so this is going into potentially a very unsettled and also very zonal type pattern, and potentially very westerly as well. They are both mild. They're both bringing up winds from the southwest. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. So the red line is the 30-year upper air temperature for Belfast. We're looking at Belfast today over in Northern Ireland, and very much a zonal sine wave type signal here. So yes, we've got these warmer and cooler and warmer sectors alternating. This is a little cold snap. You might get around the 4th, 5th of February. We might just briefly turn the wind into the north. But then we're back into warmer and cooler and warmer sectors again. So zonality then picks up by the end of the first week of February and lasts into the second week of February. Overall, it looks pretty mild, really, for Belfast, aside from that little cold snap around the 4th, 5th of February. Precipitation-wise, just plenty of rainfall spikes coming through from beginning to end. It's going to be unsettled, especially, perhaps more so even, as we go into the second week of February. That period could be very wet if those westerlies and the zonality really takes off. We might see some intense areas of low pressure and maybe severe gales battering the country. We should have to see about that. But overall, looking mild and unsettled, the Belfast in the next couple of weeks, except that little cold snap around the 4th or the 5th of February. Temperature anomalies from the 30th of January to the 7th of February are milder than average. You can have above average temperatures for the UK and for most parts of Europe as well. Also a little bit colder for the far north of Scandinavia, and Norway looking a little bit colder as well, as does Iceland. But otherwise, generally, it's another very mild week coming up. How often have we said this through this extraordinarily mild winter? Just goes on and on and on. So, yes, again, milder than average from the 30th of January to the 7th of February. Precipitation anomaly is looking rather drier than average, maybe a bit surprising given that ensemble graph for Belfast. So, Western Scotland looks a bit wetter than average. Otherwise, most other areas are on the drier than average side. This is how the GFS is looking for Sunday. Low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, bringing some outbreaks of rain across the country on Sunday. Then into Monday and Tuesday. Here's that little cold snap. The GFS has upgraded this northerly a little bit for Tuesday. Remember yesterday it was really wobbling about it. Today it does get the high pressure ridging far enough north to pull down a northerly wind on Tuesday, so that could well bring some snow showers into the north. That northerly still with us actually on Wednesday, so Tuesday, Wednesday, quite cold really. Again, quite a bit of uncertainty about this, but GFS has upgraded the northerly a bit on this particular GFS run. By Thursday, the ridge is building back in across the country. That probably brings mostly dry, but potentially quite frosty conditions. Most of that turn very mild towards the end of next week as that high pressure sinks down towards the Alps. We will be bringing up a very mild southwesterly type flow across the country. And by day 10, we're breaking the ridge down and bringing in the Atlantic, as we saw on the 500 millibar height anomaly flow chart. And then this takes into a very, very unsettled spell through the second week of February. It's just beyond day 10, but look at this, looking really stormy on the 10th of February. Severe gales and heavy rain too. Really mild with that as well. And low pressure just keeps coming, barreling in from off the Atlantic. So as we finish up on the 15th of February, looking very unsettled. Deep low pressure in the Atlantic, more gale force winds and heavy rain sweeping in from the west too. This is the GEM. So again, we've got low pressure with us over the weekend. It's quite an unsettled weekend and very mild too. Into the early part of next week, there's that little colder snap from the north-northwest. Then the high pressure builds in. That settles things down. Might get some night frost through the middle part of next week. But then into the second half of next week, milder winds return from the Atlantic, breaks the ridge down. And that's how we finish up at day 10, which is Sunday the 9th of February, looking unsettled with bands of rain coming in off the Atlantic, and also very mild with winds up from the southwest. And the ECMWF is looking like this. So again, low pressures in off the Atlantic on Sunday will be an unsettled and very mild weekend. Into the early part of next week, we turn wind into the north, so we do get a little cold snap around Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't think it's quite enough to be able to cool that at top, but I don't think the ridge is going far enough north, but we do get a swipe of northwesterlies. And then there's a high pressure builds in, probably a bit frosty through the middle part of next week. Into the second half of next week, in comes those very mild southwesterly winds once again, and that takes up to day 10, when the ridge is being broken down as low pressures coming in off the Atlantic, possibly setting us up for a stormy second week of February. That's just beyond day 10, but we may go into a stormy spell through the second week of February. These are the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10. From the Icelandic Met Office, day 10, of course, is the 9th of February. So we have 14 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure to our south, low pressure up to the north, and here come those west-southwesterlies. That's going to be mild, especially for northwestern parts of the country. 14 with high pressure just a little bit to our east, northeast, low pressure out to the northwest. Trying to go milder, and probably milder for the north and west, but for the south and east could still be rather cold and frosty. 13 unleashing the Atlantic, deep low pressure coming in off the Atlantic and looking quite stormy potentially as well. And then 10, which includes the operational run, that's the run we're just looking at, with high pressure breaking down to our south, low pressure increasingly heading in from the north and from the northwest too. In 2 weeks' time, these options that we've got, this gets us to Valentine's Day, 14th of February. 20 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure dominating from off the Atlantic. They look very unsettled. 17, including the ECM control run, have low pressure out to the northwest. Just a little bit of high pressure to the southeast. Overall looking mild and westerly with those. And then these 14 here, probably the most unsettled option, given that the low pressure is that bit closer to us, so they're just Atlantic unleashed. But it's all westerly. You'll see that it's all westerly by the middle of February. So it's all mild, but it's all wet and windy, or variations of wet and windy conditions, really. But all looking very, very westerly up to the middle of February. Finally, the Bayesian Climate Centre. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period is going to take us through the first 10 days of February, actually. The 1st to the 10th of February, the coming 10 days looks unsettled. Low pressure is heading in off the Atlantic with a west-south-westerly flow. High pressure is to our south, ridging to from the Azores to Spain. Though it all looks very westerly, very zonal, mild, wet and windy the first 10 days of February. Or the second 10-day period, I should say, is the 11th to the 20th of February. Low pressure then is out towards the northwest a little bit. High pressure building up from the southwest. That's to try things out. Very mild with that. Winds are from the southwest. In fact, dare I say it, could even be a taste of spring. The next 10-day period is the 21st of February to the 1st of March. Bit of a change with this one. Above average height centred over, and have come over here also to the east of the country. Low pressure out to the northwest. So high pressure takes over in the second half of February. And with that, you will probably get, because it's late February, of course, the sun's going to be getting stronger by the day. So second half of February, that probably gives pretty warm days. Temperature maybe into the mid-teens Celsius. By night it could be quite cold though with that. Maybe some frost and fog. So sort of charts that will bring a big temperature range potentially at the end of February with spring-like days and wintry nights. And then the final 10-day period is going to be the 2nd to the 11th of March. Low pressure then is starting to come back in, so it looks like we're breaking down the ridge. The change in this 10-day period is the above average heights that are appearing up here. Quite a bit of high pressure building within the northern latitudes. Not in a position at this stage to bring us anything colder or wintry. But would need to keep an eye on as we go further into March, whether that will then begin to deliver something a little bit more wintry as we go into the early spring would remain to be seen. But there is a little bit of a hint of northern blocking there potentially through the first sort of 10 days or so of March. That's a very long way off. Before that, February is looking like a continuation of this very mild winter, so the zonality goes on, the westerlies continue, and if anything, with the AO powering up into very strongly positive territory again, we could be seeing a signal of the westerlies to be powering up, if anything, through the first half of February, particularly that second week of February, could go really westerly and potentially even rather stormy. We shall have to see about that, but all roads are pointing towards westerlies continuing. Right, we'll be back tomorrow with January Friday, which is the month-end look ahead. That's going to take us through February, of course. And also tomorrow I'll have a week 10-day video update, so come back for that then. And I can tell you, but also tomorrow we've got the first ENSO update for January. So, of course, we haven't done an ENSO update since last summer, since August, because we sort of combined them with the winter updates that we did through the autumn. But we always bring the ENSO updates back in January, so the first ENSO update for 2020 will be tomorrow evening. That's all for now, though, and thanks for watching.